Hey, this is Danny from the Magic Our Way podcast, and you guys are listening to the BS Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Magic Our Way podcast with Kevin, Danny, Eli, and Lee. Oh, I love the way their foul little minds work. Yeah.
Jumbo, everyone.
Harambe!
And welcome to another edition of
The Magic Our Way.
Magic Our Way.
Magic Our Way.
Magic Our Way.
The Magic Our Way podcast. They are truly magical and whatnot.
Asante Sana, everyone. You are listening to the Magic Our Way podcast from New Orleans, Louisiana, in the United States of America. We are artistic buffs talking about Disney stuff, and this is a show in which every opinion is welcome. MagicOurWay.com is where you can find us today. We are presenting the history of Wilderness Lodge. So, guys, look, this isn't your typical polished, practiced, pixie dust and Disney podcast. We are not in the parks every day trying to tell you the way to angle your head during a photo pass shoot so that you are looking up Tinkerbell's skirt.
Nah, that's right, dude. We're just here to drink, talk Disney, and entertain y'all. And look, fair warning, some people on iTunes don't find us all that entertaining.
Yeah, but look, that ain't our problem.
So, guys, my name is Kevin.
I'm Danny.
And I'm Eli.
And I am Lee.
Plus, we have a special guest, Professor X, Keith, who's on the show to tell us about the history of the Wilderness Lodge. So, guys, enough of our jibber jabber. Let's go discuss some wilderness magic. All right, my weekends. Here we are on the hub. And as I mentioned in the intro, we have a very special guest to take us to this tour of the history and all kind of fun things about the Wilderness Lodge. We have Professor X right here on our show. Welcome, sir. How you doing?
Good. Yay! Well, that's an intro for me. So, guys, first of all, thank you so much for telling me you want to do the Wilderness Lodge because it's one of my favorite resorts.
Mine too.
And oh, great! And just for this, I decided since we're doing video, I decided to kind of do like Johnny Depp and kind of get in character a little bit. So I don't know if people can see in the video. Go to YouTube on Magic Our Way. So I haven't shaved for about a month now. Haven't showered. I've been in the backyard in the tent, kind of just getting ready, kind of get myself, ready for the Wilderness Lodge kind of experience. Talking about the hotel.
So Same here. I didn't even know we were doing Wilderness Lodge.
I was going to say.
It's just my lifestyle.
Give you another year, you'll look like Lee.
Well, I guess Lee didn't get the memo then. Usually doesn't anyway. So.
Well, he is your arch rival. He always has to one-up you.
He's got to sneak one in.
Yeah, eventually I'll be on the show a couple more times and I'll have a beard as long as Lee's, but I might shave it. We'll see.
I was going to say, I'm sorry to hear that. Wow.
Yeah, so as Kevin said, so today we're going to talk about the Wilderness Lodge, the great resort over near the Magic Kingdom. We're going to go through the back history a little bit, and then we're diving into the resort itself and talk about some of the, cool things that you can kind of see at the resort. And especially for people that never been there and never got a chance to visit, you can always book your trip there. Keep that in mind. Travel agent on board here on the show.
Yeah.
There's is. Look at him. Lee. That is wilderness.
Look at Kevin. He's ready for to go to Wilderness Lodge.
I'm your friendly neighborhood bear.
Lions and tigers and bears. Oh, my.
Happy Pride.
Oh. Man. But no, it's a great location, man. I mean, especially if you don't want to pay monorail money and you want to be still close to the action. I mean, it's a 10-15 minute boat ride over to Magic Kingdom and super convenient, and it's a great resort.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this show.
I stayed there when I proposed to my wife.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, we'll have to put that story in here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then things got wild.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wild at the Wilderness Lodge.
That's right.
Lions and tigers and bears. Oh, my.
Oh, yeah.
It's all nature.
That geyser wasn't the only thing going off.
Hey. All nature, all the time.
Hot.
Oh, man.
Man, so that's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. That's one of my favorite resorts. I have yet to stay there, but I definitely plan to someday in the future. But I always make a trip to eat out some of the restaurants and whatnot. So I'm very excited to see. Anybody else stay at Wilderness Lodge? Keith, I think you said you did, right?
No, I haven't been
You
there.
haven't?
It's on my wish list. So for my big 50th anniversary trip, it's either going to stay at the lodge or stay at one of the villas.
Okay.
Hey, so when
At
are
the
you going,
Wilderness Lodge.
Keith?
Somewhere in the next 18 months, Lee.
Oh, okay.
So I really don't know yet.
Well,
So.
so you can hang out with me and Kevin. We're going to be there September 30th through October 4th.
Of this year.
Of
Yeah.
this year, yep. I just booked my park reses.
Nice. Okay.
So-
Yeah, so if you make it down, like I wasn't able to book the vacation with Lee, or not book the Magic Kingdom with Lee on the first, but so I'm by myself. So if you want to come hang, let's do it, man.
Yeah, I'll try to fit that in the cards. Probably not because something called school.
Oh yeah, there is that. Yeah.
Who knows? Who cares about school?
But it's a great time. I mean, you guys are going at a great time. I mean, Wilderness Lodge in the fall, it kind of just screams fall to begin with to me, just the wilderness and everything else.
I'm
I'll
excited.
be looking forward to hearing all about your trip recaps on that trip.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking forward to hearing the stuff that you have to give us, and then that'll trigger our memories, and it's going to be a fun conversation. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Keith, and lead us down this journey, sir.
All right, sounds good. So, of course, Professor X always doing his research and always kind of stumbling upon things I just never knew before. You figure I would know everything about Disney, but the history of Wilderness Lodge actually has an interesting history, and it goes back. Actually, in theory, there's lots of different theories about the origins of the Wilderness Lodge, but it seems to possibly go back as far back as 1967.
1967.
Wow.
Which is even before the Magic Kingdom was even, I don't want
Just
to
a
say
twinkle in
created,
Walt's
but
eye.
kind of built. Yeah, exactly.
What at the year you were born, Lee?
71. Thank you.
1871.
Trying to date Lee a little bit more than he is.
Oh, man.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He's got the beard,
Who wouldn't wanna
figure
date
he's the old man. So
Yeah, you can see the backside of the beard. The backside of the beard.
So the way 1967 comes into place, when Disney was designing the Magic Kingdom Resort, there was obviously various hotels that he was going to have there. And specifically in 1967, they designed a map, which actually showed all the various resorts they were going to have around the Magic Kingdom Resort. Now, some of these I actually didn't know, so I'm going to just go through them real quick. So the map showed there was going to be a Cape Cod Village, a South Seas Glass skyscraper. There was going to be a Yesterland Hotel, which basically was going to be part of the Main Street kind of theme. There was going to be a Spanish Colonial Hotel, an Oriental Hotel, a Dutch Hotel, an African Hotel, which would have been themed with Adventureland. And there was going to be a Frontier Village. So this is where the Wilderness Lodge, possibly origins, comes into play. But at the same time, it was also rumored that this could have been Fort Wilderness as well.
I have a
But
question.
there's
The Dutch Lodge, when you go there, did you have to split your bill in half with everyone?
you might have. I'm not really sure. So, I mean, even back then, you could kind of see.
He's like, I don't really care about what
Look,
you
it was
just
better
said.
than I thought. I thought he was going to do a Dutch oven joke. So,
Oh, wow.
Got off
better than
easy.
what I
Yeah,
thought it was
I
gonna
mean,
be.
Yeah. Very
I mean,
nice.
even then, you can kind of see the origins of Epcot a little bit with these different theme hotels.
Yeah.
But that's going off on a total different, tangent there. So just moving along a little bit in the timeline. So in 1969, they threw out some of the ideas of hotels. They kept fine-lining the hotels a little bit. So they had a Persian Palace, U.S. Disney Hotel, which later would become the Tempo Resort, which then would become what resort, gentlemen?
Contemporary.
Temporary, yes. There was a Far East Disney Hotel, a Venice Hotel, Disney South Pacific, and then the Frontier Village name actually changed to Diamond D, which is going to be a Disney Dude Ranch, which really points to that it would be Fort
Sounds like a
Wilderness.
wrestling match.
What Diamond
Disney
D?
D,
Well,
Diamond D,
yep.
coming to the stage.
Diamond D.
I was thinking of the Double D Ranch.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I was
Sounds like
on.
a
I like
strip
it.
club
I like
on
them
the
shades,
interstate,
Kev.
yeah.
Double D Ranch.
Double D, where he's a smile all day.
So the Diamond D Resort basically pointed that it was probably going to be Fort Wilderness, but at the same time frame as Fort Wilderness was being built, jumping around the timeline a little bit forwards back into around 1971, 72 when Fort Wilderness was being built. They cleared a part of land which was near Fort Wilderness, but not exactly, where Fort Wilderness was located. So they cleared that area of trees, and some claim that this area was originally going to be an addition for more campgrounds. But it turns out this was the same area where the Wilderness Lodge area hotel was actually going to be built. So now we're in 71, 72 time frame. So the original name of the hotel was actually going to be called Cypress Point Lodge. So I guess at one point there was a cypress tree there maybe, or, a whole bunch of trees or whatever. So they came up with this name, the Cypress, Point Lodge. What do you guys think of that name compared to the Wilderness Lodge now?
I mean, a little more
Not a bad
specific.
name.
It's
Not
not
a bad name.
I
I
like
like
the name.
cypresses and stuff.
I think Wilderness Lodge is just iconic now.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah,
Well, maybe they were going to build a Cypress Hill Lounge, and that was going to be. I would have been down for that.
Cypress Hill Lounge?
Yeah, smoking
have to
trees.
be-
Kind of loco.
you have to be
Oh.
insane in the membrane.
Right.
Oh, yeah. What if they named Artist Point Cypress Point instead?
That's an interesting, yeah.
Not bad. A Cypress Point in and of itself could be a great name for a resort.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was always partial to Artist Point just because all the paintings that adorn the walls. I mean,
Oh, yeah, that is cool.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So now we're in 71, 72. So there was an area of land, like you said, that was cleared. Maybe additional campground for Fort Wilderness, maybe not. But in the 1973 Walt Disney World Souvenir Guidebook, in the brochure, there was an unnamed lodge, which they had kind of a drawing, which basically was going to be showing that there would be a resort at this location. And then at that point in time, it really looked like this would have been that Cypress Point Lodge Resort. But in 1973, let's see how well you guys are in history. Here's the professor coming into play. What happened in 1973 affecting the U.S. that caused Walt Disney World attendance to drop by 20%?
The recession.
Anybody?
oil embargo?
Yes, correct. Who was that, Danny?
That was-
Yes, sir. Gold
Well,
star.
whoever said that was correct. So the Arab oil embargo of 1973, like I said, dropped attendance by 20% for Disney World. So that basically killed that hotel idea for the moment. You know how a good idea of Disney World never dies. So so that was kind of early 70s. Possible origins of the hotel. So now it's jumped another about 6 or 7 years. So now we're kind of into the late 70s, 78, 79, 80.
We were already born.
Okay.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
Now we're
gentlemen.
born
Lee was
We're existing.
22.
Yep.
So in that 80, 81, 82, there's a hint for you. What was being built, major, kind of thing being built at Disney World?
Epcot.
Epcot Center was being built at that time frame. Card Walker and some of the other management at Disney World realized once Epcot gets built, we're going to have a lot more boost in attendance. The current existing Disney hotels are not going to cut it. So there was a thought process to maybe build some new hotels over during that time frame. One of the ideas that was resurrected was the Cypress Point Lodge. So at the time it was initiated that they're thinking about building a Cypress Point Lodge in the specific area where the land was already cleared. And what was also appealing to them at the time is that it wouldn't be on the resort monorail line, so it wouldn't cause basically disruption in the current operation of the monorail, the Magic Kingdom area. So
That's a good idea, actually. I never thought about that, but yeah, they could leave those uninterrupted, and they have a whole separate thing here. They don't have to mess up with a good thing that they got already. So yeah, I never knew that.
yeah, and more proof of this, there was a November 4th, 1982 issue of the Walt Disney World Eyes and Ears magazine, which mostly put out for cast members. And it talks about the resort a little bit. So apparently it was supposed to be a moderate resort. So apparently over time it changed, I guess, from a moderate to deluxe. But so it's supposed to be a medium-sized hotel located on the southern shore of Bay Lake near a Fort Wilderness Resort. And it was supposed to have 550 rooms. And this is kind of interesting. It was supposed to have 50 log cabins on the beach. So this is those cabins, part of that Copper Creek Villas, which came into play 40 years later or whatever. So I guess the plan was way back in 82 to have these log cabins on the beach.
Well, that's kind of
So-
cool.
I don't think of log cabins when I think of the beach, though. I think of like palapas and beach houses and
Cabanas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
like
like
a lake, yes, like a log cabin on a lake, but not on a beach.
yeah, I'm surprised they didn't add in like teepees or something like that.
Oh well, that would have been
Wigwams.
racist.
And
Well, actually, we'll get to that too a little bit further down in the timeline. But like you said, the Cypress Point Lodge changes in
You had
kind
to
of
order your food by smoke signal.
Hey,
to
that's
bang-
the early mobile dining, right?
Wow.
Yeah, there you go.
you had to bang a little log.
Log,
just
yeah.
like they did in the Willy Wonka.
Buffalo.
Now, kind of compare this when I mentioned some of these features currently to the Wilderness Lodge. So it's supposed to have 2 restaurants, has 2 restaurants now, pool, a lake dock, and guests would be able to visit Cypress Point Lodge by watercraft. The only difference, which you kind of just talked about, Lee, is that there was supposed to be a beach there. And obviously there's no real beach there due to alligators in the water and everything else at Disney. But yeah. And actually, do you guys remember back in the 1980s, people that kind of visited the Magic Kingdom? I don't know if you guys visited back that early, but remember leaving the post-show area of the Walt Disney World story, that movie, there was always some model kind of showing something coming in the future.
Kind of sort of remember.
Yeah, I visited, but not often when I was that young, so I couldn't swear to it, but I do remember seeing models. I couldn't tell you where they were.
I'd have to look at pictures.
Yeah.
Well, one of the large models was of the Walt Disney World Resort area, and part of it was a model of the Cypress Point Lodge in that whole scheme of Walt Disney World.
So there was a model of this hotel at one point for people to see.
Yes.
Oh, I kind of remember that now. It was like under a big glass. Yeah, I think it was huge, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was basically huge. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah.
So that was part of the model. So that's proof that back in the early 80s, they were, planning that resort. So now here's something else that killed the idea. Again, it wasn't the Arab oil embargo, but it was actually low attendance for Epcot when they first opened up.
It wasn't as popular as they thought it was going to be.
That kind of sucks.
About the first year or two of Epcot, attendance wasn't got the numbers that Disney wanted, probably based on their business model. So then the lodge and the model disappeared, and that idea disappeared. Now, you also have to remember at the time, Epcot was only supposed to cost somewhere 300-400 million, and it wound up costing over $1 billion. So cost overruns.
That's kind of a lot.
Yeah. What was the cost for that increase?
So obviously they had to make some cost. And so they're at the point in time, hey, let's build all these hotels for this big boost in attendance from Epcot. And we just spent $600 million more than we wanted to. And probably maybe we could put that hotel on hold. Wow. So now the Cypress Point Lodge or Wilderness Lodge or whatever you want to call it is on hold for a second time. Yeah.
Now, knowing what we know now, it actually seems not a good idea because it wouldn't help with Epcot. It would help more with Magic Kingdom. Then we get Beach Club and we get Yacht Club and stuff like that and Boardwalk that goes along with Epcot. But I mean, I guess any hotel would have helped if there was an increase in attendance. But
interestingly, because if you do think about it, well, the Grand Floridian opened in '88, so that was on the monorail line. But kind of the Yacht and Beach Club and more of those opened up Caribbean Beach near that Epcot area.
Sure. Kind
of in the late '80s, early '90s, so kind of an area that they were kind of developing more for Epcot. So to your point, why would they want to build this Cypress Point Lodge, which is near the Magic Kingdom, if when I just told you part of the logic was to build this hotel because of Epcot's boost attendance, when do you want to build a hotel now closer to Epcot?
Well, the monorail, though, connects to Epcot.
True. That's a good point.
Like I said, it's more like hindsight is 20/20 situation.
Right, right.
Now that we have what we have, it makes more sense that we have hotels that you can walk to Epcot from.
Yeah, no, just interesting kind of a hindsight there. So now the Wilderness Lodge gets reborn now for a third time. So we have Michael Eisner coming in the door in 1984.
That's my CEO.
There you go.
That's my guy.
All right. I didn't want to say anything. He's my CEO too.
Mm-hmm.
I actually saw him in person at one of the stockholder meetings in 2004 in Philadelphia.
Oh, really?
Kind of cool.
And
cool.
So and actually, real quick side note, it was at the Philadelphia Convention Center, and got to see. And this was the really heated one when basically they kicked out Eisner.
Yes.
Oh wow.
It was really cool because sitting about 2 rows behind me in regular seats was actually Roy Disney Jr.
Oh, wow.
And,
Royo?
I forget his. I'm sorry?
Was it Royo?
No, this
or Roy
was,
E?
No, it's Royal with
Royo
cheese.
passed away in the early 70s.
Roy E?
Roy E? Yeah, I can't.
The son.
Yeah, one's the son.
The son, yeah.
Because it's not a junior.
He looks like Walt, but just to kind of see somebody, like a little bit of an icon thing. It was cool. Yeah, just to see him in person and see Michael Eisner over the years. So I'm glad to see that we're all on board with Michael Eisner because he's actually the one that actually is responsible now for the Wilderness Lodge.
A lot of stuff. Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
So Michael Eisner, he always loved the outdoors. He had that book, I think it was called Camp, where he talks about his childhood and going to camp, upstate New York. And
yeah, that one time at band camp.
So he was a big outdoors guy and always loved like the outdoors and wilderness. So when I guess, when he saw this somewhere in the blueprint somewhere, whatever, he was open up for this idea. And at the same time, during that early 90s time frame, he was trying to basically entice a lot of architects like Robert Stern and Michael Graves to kind of design buildings on Walt Disney World property. So this is why, doing another tangent here, but this is why we got the Walt Disney World casting building and the swan and dolphin in that, that weird architecture.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's unique.
So he was the one at the time who wanted to bring on, this famous architects and at the same time build this wilderness lodge. On January 4th, 1990, so Michael Eisner announced the, you guys remember this, the Disney Decade?
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So where he just had all these plans, like every year, cranking them out. Can you imagine today? They just go up and say, this is what we're going to build for the next 10 years and actually do most of it. And then all of a sudden there's budget cuts every 2 minutes and, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not, you know what I mean? So pretty bold statement just for him to do that. Part of his announcement, 7 hotels were mentioned and Disney World was going to build 7 new hotels with 4,500 rooms, bringing the room supply up to 21,000 rooms by the year 2000. The new hotels included a 1,000-room Mediterranean resort. And also, once again, the Wilderness Lodge was reborn and it was going to be built almost the same spot was going to build before, but there was going to be more added to it. So do you remember, Lee, kind of going back to your episode, I don't know what it was, 200 something, where you talked about Fort Wilderness?
Train and all that stuff. And we did the water park.
Oh, River Country.
River Country was part of that. So, yeah, I remember that. And so that was going to be part of this?
Yes. So what they were going to do in hindsight, I think it would have really worked really well. So they were going to have the Wilderness Lodge built, 700-room Wilderness Lodge. They have Fort Wilderness, okay? And at the time, River Country was still open because River Country technically didn't close until early 2003 or something like that. So they were actually going to have Wilderness Lodge, Fort Wilderness, and they were going to actually have another hotel called Buffalo Junction connecting the 3 of them.
Wow.
Buffalo Junction.
Buffalo Junction.
It's like Petticoat Junction.
So is it also like a wilderness theme, it sounds like?
Yeah, so what they were going to do, also Buffalo Junction was also known as Wilderness Junction. But to just put this in perspective, just to kind of answer your question, Danny, so we have to jump across the world just for a minute, and I'll come back to your question.
Okay.
So at the same time frame, Disneyland Paris was being built in the early 90s. So one of the hotels that they were actually building, which had a Wild West theme, was the Cheyenne Hotel, which was built one of the current hotels over Disneyland Paris. So they were going to take that hotel, picture an old Wild West town, 2-story buildings, kind of like, I guess, Frontierland is now. So it was going to be like that. So it wasn't going to be like a big resort for this Buffalo Junction, but they were going to have like the Wild West, the dusty like streets, and I'm sure there would have been shops and restaurants in there. And at the same time frame, because they were building this, and Disney is all about synergy, so they were basically building Buffalo Bill's Wild West show for Disneyland Paris because apparently people in Europe love that Wild West theme. So at the same time, they could have took all that and just kind of built this in that Wilderness Lodge, Buffalo Junction, build the Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, and connect it with the Wilderness Lodge.
They could have put like a Tombstone theme or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So it was like staying in the Wild West, and it was like interactive, kind of like a similar way, I guess, what they're gonna be doing with the Star Wars hotel, where you walk in there and
characters are talking.
Right, like, hey, Buckaroo.
Right.
Howdy, partner.
You're getting challenged to a duel or something.
I'm a roping cowboy.
The Buffalo Bill's Wild West show is definitely interactive. I mean, that would have been the Hoop-de-Doo review where you pay for it. But I'm sure they would have had, horseback rides, wagon rides. It would have been almost like Frontierland, but at a hotel.
Okay.
I'm like imagining Streetmosphere characters like having shootouts in the street, like duels and stuff. Like,
that's what I'm.
That's
what it was like when you went to Six Flags. Like they had
that's true.
They had a whole western town with shootouts in the streets, and that's what I'm thinking of. I'm like, oh wow, that'd be kind of cool if you're staying at a hotel in and around this western town where everyone's kind of playing a role.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool in France,
like that.
Of all places. You could have like Doc Holliday come out.
I'm
your Huckleberry.
Yeah, you had
say we.
and then if you have the train, and that train goes from Buffalo Junction to Fort Wilderness to Wilderness Lodge to the River Country, I mean that even makes it even better. It makes it feel like more of a complete western.
Yeah, western style. You had different sections of the town to explore. In the train.
You had to get the train like held up by marauders. And
there
stuff.
You go. Like,
that'd be awesome.
Shoot, I'm going to be late for my fast pass. Bandits hijack the train again.
And they're going to have the golden spike ceremony, and then they'll just come around with oranges.
So you're correct. They were going to like rebuild the railroad. Exactly what you just said.
Really?
That would have been great.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been wonderful.
I'm looking at a picture right now. They have the Wilderness Lodge, and they have the railroad connecting right to the lodge. Like there was a station right at the lodge, so you could have took that. You could have went to River Country, Fort Wilderness, this Buffalo Junction or Wilderness Junction or whatever. Yeah, I mean it would have been like a whole area. You know what I mean?
That would have been amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Why don't they do that?
Problem is, like, when I think of Buffalo Bill now, I think of Silence of the Lambs, so that kind of throws it off a little bit. But
No, you like it.
That didn't exist back then. So
You kind of like it.
Grease yourself.
Don't lie.
That's a whole different role-playing experience.
Yeah.
You wake up in a well and
yeah, they got the well like in Indiana Jones. Like you can lower the lotion down the well,
It puts the lapu on its skin. Or it gets
or it
the
has
hose
to pay again.
So unfortunately, though, based on this great idea, unfortunately, what happened now, it wasn't the oil embargo, poor attendance in the first couple of years at Epcot. It was actually twofold. It was the
Disney Paris.
Yep, Disneyland Paris kind of was a financial
Bastards.
failure from
money
the start.
suck. Yeah.
So Disneyland Paris kind of was a financial nightmare. So money, obviously, that they thought would be pouring in didn't. And at the same time, in 1992, based on there was a start of a recession. So combination of the two, and they kept some of it because Wilderness Lodge actually stayed, but everything else kind of fell by the wayside. So
So no Buffalo Wild Wings.
so no Buffalo. Yeah, there you go. That could have went right in there. So had some sponsorship there, So
Brilliant.
had a Ponderosa, Outback, pick your steakhouse chain there.
Outback.
So, or I guess Outback wouldn't fit because that's Australian.
Oh,
but,
like a Texas Roadhouse.
Texas
thing.
Yeah,
Roadhouse,
Texas
there you
Roadhouse.
go.
Yeah.
So the only thing that survived was the Wilderness Lodge Resort. At the time, they were still thinking that River Country would have still been there. Can you imagine they built all this and then they closed down River Country?
that would have put a wrench in the whole thing. I mean, because why would you need to travel in between resorts?
Right.
I mean, I suppose, like, if you go to the Hoop-de-Doo Musical Review or something like that, that would be convenient. But being able to hit up resorts and go to River Country, that would have been nice.
Yeah. It was right there.
Yeah, it's right
Yeah,
there.
been more practical, yeah.
Once again, an idea Disney never died. So they were going to build Reflections was the name of the DVC resort that they were going to build about 3-4 years ago.
Okay. Reflection.
We'll get into the theming of the Wilderness Lodge,
Kind of cool, yeah.
in a little bit, but that was kind of, and not to go on another tangent, but I feel like Disney's getting a little more watered down with their current resorts, a little bit with the Riviera. And if you looked at the blueprints for this Reflections, it was kind of more modernized, I guess, nature version. They had a little bit of Pocahontas in there. I wasn't personally thrilled about it, and I'm glad that COVID kind of, I think, killed it.
Damn.
COVID's the summer
Dude,
gun.
COVID just did something right for once.
COVID
Thank
kind
God
of
for
destroyed.
COVID.
Man, huh?
Wow.
Way to
I mean,
go,
they could
COVID.
take that whole River Country area and make it like a water theme for those two areas, for Wilderness Lodge and Copper Creek and all that, and then they'll be only accessible to those resorts.
Yeah, but I think the reason that they haven't really done anything with River Country, Lee, is asbestos. That's what I've
I know we
heard.
talked about that. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, but
asbestos.
what are you going to do? Eventually, you have to do something with it, and
Yeah,
Burn
it
it.
ain't going to get no cheaper.
Pay a lot of money to get an asbestos screw in there to remove all that stuff.
But like I said, it ain't going to get no cheaper. So
Are you saying, Danny, just going a quick side note again, are you saying that when they built River Country, they built it like that rocks and all that? Was that's just built in there, like due to 70s construction?
Yeah, asbestos was like a miracle insulator.
Insulator, yeah.
Yeah, in the 70s, 60s, 70s.
Right.
Pretty much stopped usage. By around 1980, they figured out it was killing people. But up until then, it was viewed as a miracle product, or you could take these super hot piping and it would help insulate that heat. And that's the rumor going around. But
makes
I
sense.
mean, the Disneyland Hotel, when that was built, that had asbestos in it. I submit to a lot of asbestos trust, and that Disneyland Hotel was an approved site for construction workers who worked on it, where you didn't even have to submit a proof of exposure, as long as you could demonstrate. Yeah, between X and Y, I worked at the Disneyland Hotel in the construction phase, I should say, because asbestos is one of those things that you have to disturb it for it to become breathable. So it's either when you're putting it in or you're taking it out that it becomes breathable. So a lot of people still to this day, especially in and around New Orleans, have asbestos roof. As long as the roof tile doesn't crack or you're not, it's fairly safe. So I think that's kind of why they leave it alone.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So So maybe they'll build on that area, maybe they won't. But just to tie in one other attraction, which I think you guys are maybe forgetting about a little bit. So remember Discovery Island? That was another attraction.
Yes,
that was kind of
yeah.
in that,
Love that
same
place.
area. So you almost had this whole little themed resort area all kind of looped together. But now, obviously, the Wilderness Lodge, River Country shut down, Discovery Island shut down. So, but let's move ahead a little bit. So Michael Eisner wanted to build the Wilderness Lodge. He got one of the famous architects involved. Peter Dominic Jr. was the famous architect at the time. So they were going for this wild northwestern landscaping Grand Canyon / National Park rustic feel.
That's
That'd have been kind of cool.
That's a lot of combos.
When you guys, it's interesting. So when you visit certain Disney resorts or Disney theme lands or whatever, you can place, I guess, specifically where you're at. Like I'm in Fantasyland or I'm in Adventureland. But when you go to the Wilderness Lodge, I mean, I gave you guys some ideas, but what do you guys think as far as like where are you at, I guess, in the world or whatever?
Yeah, I know it's like it's woods and it's wilderness, but there's lots of wilderness in the United States, right? So it could be in Colorado, it could be in, I don't know, wherever, Seattle, I don't know. Like
I was gonna say, I kind of think that it kind of reminds me of the Pacific Northwest, kind of.
See, I kind of think that it's kind of like a national park, like Yellowstone or something like that.
Yeah, that kind of could be it.
Yosemite is kind of like that.
Honestly, it's all of the above.
Kind of like a combination of everything.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely did some study, like, of the Pacific Northwest wilderness, that rustic. We said, that wild, just wilderness, like wherever you are in Colorado or whatever. And they definitely focused in a lot on the National Park Service. So they went to Yellowstone, Glacier, Yosemite, and they looked at all big lodges that are got these national parks. I mean, I've never been there personally, but I kind of seen pictures and stuff like that. So they kind of looked at, apparently one of the big inns they looked at is the Old Faithful Inn at Yellowstone National Park.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
As inspiration for the resort. So that's just a little bit of the background of where they got the inspiration for the
I'm
kind
just
of.
glad they didn't go with the original idea of Brokeback Mountain Lodge. That would have been real different.
Don't lie, Lee. You kind of would have liked that.
I was going to say, you really all that disappointed, Lee?
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you're smiling right now. Look at you. I think you're kind of smiling right there.
It's interesting. So I know all you guys, except you all been to Disneyland's California Adventure and Disneyland probably in the last
the
couple
Grand
years,
Californian.
correct?
So if you're saying that they researched all those places for the Wilderness Lodge, I think the out west they looked at the Wilderness Lodge to build Grand Californian.
What I was going to say, Kevin, is I think the same architect, I'm not 100%, that designed the Wilderness Lodge also designed the Grand California.
2 for 1.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, it's a similar design.
Very much
Yeah,
so.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
So
or did they actually work on it? Or did they just say, "Hey, dude, I like what you did here. We're just going to repeat that over here"? Like, I'm paying you already to do this. I don't need to pay you to do this. I'm just going to make it the same.
Well, they had the blueprints.
How similar? How similar is it? I never seen the.
It's.
I mean,
the lobby
basically
area is
the same thing.
Yeah, they're almost like twins.
Yeah,
They're kind of like twins.
very similar. I don't think there's as much of a Native American influence
No, not as much.
in the Grand Californian, and I'm struggling to think because I've never stayed there, but we've been in there multiple times.
Okay.
I can't.
But you
say
have
that
a lot
I've
of
ever
the same kind of features. I know I stayed there, and I felt very familiar.
Okay.
You know, whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah, same color, the same color scheme.
To be honest with you, Animal Kingdom always felt similar as well.
I
Yeah,
was about to bring that up. Same architect, same grand lobby.
is that like kind of the only
Okay.
design they kind of do?
Big grand lobbies.
Big grand lot, wooded looking things, like wilderness looking.
Well, yeah.
It's impressive. I could tell
It
you
is.
that.
It is nice.
Well, it makes sense, though, because, like, if Keith said earlier they were having all these crazy budget problems from past projects, it would make sense if they were like, okay, we know how much this layout cost. We could just
Yep.
They wouldn't have
copy
to
that.
recreate it.
Yeah, and worry about any kind of crazy budget, issues or going over or under, whatever. So
I mean, it's no complaint. I kind of dig it. It's good. It's pretty cool.
yeah, I mean, it works. I mean, if something works, keep it going.
That's a good point. If you think about it, obviously Disney's always about synergy. So if you, like you said, if you know the construction cost and you kind of just modify the theme a little bit, I bet you if we take the blueprints, put them similar, I bet you they're very similar between the Wilderness and the Grand California.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And I kind of gotta give it to those guys. If you're gonna do something, or do one thing, just do it really well.
Yeah.
And good for them. I like those resorts that they built. It's
Well,
kind of cool.
they're on opposite coasts.
Yes.
So I mean, it's not
That's
like it's not like
Like 2 gas stations right on the
Right,
same street.
yeah.
that both Shell or
They're
something.
competing with one another. Yeah, no, the experience is different.
Yeah, it's not like a bunch of all-star resorts.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to kind of go into why I love it, and it's my favorite resort. Every Disney resort definitely has theming, but it's actually one of my favorite themings, I think, just because I get the whole wilderness and all that, and takes you to not a specific place like we just talked about, but kind of almost like an escapism place. Like here I'm kind of staying at this resort in the woods. You get away from the hustle bustle of the parks, and then come back. You have these giant trees, more of like a serenity, calmness, I guess. So
Yeah, kind of chill kind of thing.
yeah, exactly. So that's what my personal love about the
I dig
experience.
it. I dig it.
Yeah, so the theming is interesting. So the theming actually starts just when you actually approach the resort. So you turn on Timberland Drive. So there's kind of a theming right there.
Yeah,
So you go through this big archway, which is themed with buffaloes. And it constantly is saying you're leaving Florida and you're entering like this new land or, whatever, heading into the woods.
It's kind of like Jurassic Park, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, like that big gate.
It's got to put out the doors and stuff. Yeah.
So without it being eaten alive.
Well, you could be eaten alive by bears, kind of, right?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh, damn. Now that's a good selling point.
I mean, it kind of sucked, but
Right,
what are you going to do?
Get your exercise. Run from a bear.
You know,
Just make sure you're
you got
fascinated
alligators in
with
the
another
water, you got
friend.
bears in the woods. I mean, what kind of place is this?
I mean, it's crazy.
I don't get it.
Yeah, can you imagine it like if they took instead of the Animal Kingdom Lodge, like how you overlook the savannah? If you could overlook the woods and they just had like bears in there and moose and
Sure.
elk and all.
And a lion.
Oh my!
Lions chilling out, looking at you
And
like,
tigers.
I would pay money for a wilderness animal view or whatever they would call it,
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
I mean,
yeah.
Well, wouldn't it be cool if, like, all right, so they had like this area set up, and they would be like preferential balconies where you would look out, and it would be like in a protected area that's made up to look like wilderness, but you'd see little things like, I don't know, Chippendale running around, or you would see kind of like the portholes on the ships where they've incorporated characters into it, where you would see Chippendale frolicking in the woods, or Brother Bear, or whatever. Like, wouldn't that be kind of cool if like you just saw like these Disney animals just interacting in the woods?
What are they doing in the woods?
What?
Pocahontas just swoops in and just hi and
Hi.
swoops out.
Swoops out.
Yeah,
and the
come
tree
back.
starts talking at you?
Yes.
Oh.
Grandma Willow. Yeah.
Yeah. You go out to the balcony, Grandma was like, good job last
Yeah.
night.
You're like, holy crap, the tree's talking to me.
It's that gummy bear you
You're
had.
like, say something again.
Those gummies you had, Eli.
Yeah. You like start walking the tree like, do my bills. Go ahead.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Okay, so the Polynesian is getting a redo with Moana, and I'm sure you guys just saw the Contemporaries getting an Incredibles redo.
Yeah, we talked about that way back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the IP that's going to Wilderness Lodge eventually?
Brother Bear.
Toy Story, Brother Bear,
Toy Story.
Pocahontas, you name it. Anything
Atlantis.
wilderness.
Atlantis.
Atlantis.
Something
Wow.
so out there.
Anything with wood animals, right? The
That's
Snow White
it.
characters.
That's right.
Well, I mean, you have a Snow White restaurant.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
So-
That's a
Oh,
good
this
point.
is true.
So,
Yeah.
Humphrey the Bear, that's their unofficial mascot.
That's
Yeah,
outside of
we'll talk about him in
Wakanda.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There's
Yeah,
a
it's a-
ton.
Which one do you think would be the best-selling IP to put in there? Like the one that would put it over the top?
Toy Story.
Yeah?
Toy Story.
People,
I think
yeah,
Toy Story
yeah.
is
Like Woody? You're gonna
Yeah,
put Woody in there?
Woody in the wilderness?
Who's gonna pay for the Brother Bear room?
Yeah.
I would now. I love Brother Bear, but I'm just
Yeah, maybe Snow White, but just seems like that doesn't really.
I think
Yeah.
Snow White makes sense, but I don't think that would be appealing to a modern day kids.
Right.
Yeah. What if they rethemed to
Flubber.
like the Woody room or
Yeah, the Roundup Gang.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
from
The Roundup
Toy Story
rooms.
2.
Yeah.
There you go.
The hoedowns.
Yeah.
You pay per hour.
Put your hands in the sky, partner.
Can you imagine the Toy Story characters over at Whispering Canyon? I could.
Yeah.
I could easily see them doing that.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
Ketchup.
Oh,
Hate to say it, but I can
Boom.
see it.
Made magic again.
I need a little more water.
There you go.
so you're approaching the big Jurassic Park entrance there. So what they did a curve, and then they basically did the land a little bit with some slight regrading. So basically, they put in a bunch of trees, and they basically take the sight lines out. So when you come in, if you think about it, you drive in, you curve, and then you turn in, and then you have big resort in front of you, hidden behind these trees.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this like grand reveal.
And then the parking lot.
They-
Really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's nice.
So they basically hide all the parking and business services and all that kind of stuff out of sight. And then you basically have the just kind of the woods, and a lot of giant trees, plants, and all that to go in with that theming just to get you away from Florida. What would you guys think if the monorail went by? Would that kind of ruin the
No,
theme?
it would spoil it. It would spoil it.
It would be trippy.
Totally spoil it.
That'd be weird.
They'd have to do something with like a special monorail car that looked like an old railway train or something.
Or they like paint it so it's camouflage to look like trees or something.
Or maybe Loki it.
But the same monorail runs on the same track going the contemporary Polynesian and all. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think it looks weird when you see it the Polynesian, but I don't know. I like the idea. You got a water taxi, and that's fine. You got a water taxi, you got a bus line, I'm good.
A train would be best.
The train would be best. That is true.
Or a golf cart.
Or ATV.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I'd take that.
Yeah.
ATV. Oh, man, I like that. Rent an ATV.
Rent an
Jump through our
ATV.
woods.
Drive through it.
Got
Hit
it
the
bad.
bud.
They have the Segway tour at one time, so they could kind of do the same concept with ATVs.
Yeah, I think that would help to add to just the natural concept of things. Like you said, if it's something seriously technical, doesn't make sense.
Can you imagine what guests would do if they had TV?
Wait,
Oh!
what? Ramping up there, scaring raccoons.
You know
and
how
stuff.
many ATVs they'd have to fish out of Bay Lake?
Oh God! Remember the guy that crashed the golf cart? From Fort Wilderness. Yeah.
Oh, wow. No, I don't remember that.
No, what
Yeah,
happened?
a couple years ago, somebody drove a golf cart into the lake near Fort Wilderness. So a lot of ATVs would be underwater.
Oh, that's a good story.
It would have
So-
to be amphibious, kind of like those cars at downtown Disney.
Yeah.
Disney Springs, as it
At
were.
the
Yeah.
boathouse.
Yeah, at the boathouse, yes.
Get some good revenue, though. You got to pay insurance or something before you rent it, and they're gonna drive it right into the water.
We riding dirty.
We doing it in wilderness.
Kind of like
Ride
that.
it. Let's get it going.
Yeah, man. The first time I saw Wilderness Lodge, like when I saw it looked like a giant Lincoln log set, man. It was like,
Yeah.
it was so impressive. Like, wow, I used to make this when I was a kid, but not like on this scale. But then you walk in, that lobby just overtakes you.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So beautiful.
Love it. And the smells.
Yes.
Let's kind of jump into that lobby a little bit.
All right, yeah. let's
Jump
do it.
into the lobby.
Jump it.
Let's
Jump into the lobby.
So one interesting point, which Danny, you mentioned a little bit, which is not at the Grand Californian, is there's a lot of definitely heavy theming in the probably the second most themed resort that I know of, next to the Animal Kingdom Lodge. Is how you walk through Animal Kingdom Lodge and there's a ton of like African exhibits and stuff like that. So there's a lot of Native American
Artifact.
decorations in that lobby.
Like artifacts or like actual decorate? Like
It's
themes?
like a combination of the two. I think it's like artifacts and reproductive of like actual art. Like I remember like they did like because I think Native Americans like they were big into the eagle, so they made these headdresses with eagle feathers. But eagles were on like the endangered species list, so I think they just took turkey feathers.
No one can tell the
turkey legs they
difference.
got.
Exactly.
They recycled it before they
Wow.
kill them for turkey legs. Make sure to save those feathers. We're gonna need those for our next project.
Use every part of the turkey.
Like, that's messed up. Like,
Yeah.
people can't
That's
tell the
Disney
difference.
synergy.
Put it in the
Yeah.
pillows.
No, if you think about the resort, so they have these giant TP chandeliers, they have 4 of them, which are 500 pounds each, and are made from actual rawhide that they stretched over the flamework. And they have Native American symbols in red and black on these teepees.
So cool.
So they have representations of 4 Native American tribes: Cheyenne, Crow, Blackfoot, and I apologize to the Native Americans who listen to the show.
The Crips.
So, no, not the Crips.
little-
Sioux.
Two.
Sue.
Okay.
Sue.
So,
That's a
once
big-
again, Keith
See?
with his great pronunciations here. So they have a lot of their artifacts in the lobby as well. They have headdresses. They have basically behind the front desk, they have cradle boards, which is basically used to help like a soft skin pouch. They use to basically what they carry babies in. They have
Like a
moccasins.
papoose kind of thing.
Yeah,
Like
a papoose. Yeah.
Okay.
So they have just a ton of this stuff here when you're walking through the lobby. Probably never even really notice. One of the other 2 big things which really stand out is they have 2 55-foot tall totem poles in the lobby, which basically is a representation of Northwest Native American cultures. Without going into too much of the story, each of these totem poles tells a story the way they carved it into the totem pole.
About the history of the tribes, or just like a fable?
Apparently, one is about an eagle and one is about a raven.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So they're Harry Potter characters.
and then it's the Hufflepuff
So,
totem.
so to
But
answer your
seriously, are these made by Native Americans or story behind that?
No, they weren't made by Native Americans.
Well, Disney hired, now I'm not sure the gentleman's background, but they did hire somebody basically create these totem poles. I'm not sure if he was Native American or not.
He wasn't.
John Smith made them.
John Smith.
Yeah, the guy's name was Dwayne Pasco, and he's not a descendant of the Pacific Northwest Indians. Yeah, he's considered one of the most adept among the handful of Canadian and American master carvers that are working today, and he's responsible for both of those totems.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much you want to go into these stories on the totem poles, but you know.
Oh, we can go on. You want to? I got it right in front of me. You want me to go do it? You want to do it, Keith, or you have
go
it?
do it, Danny.
I'll do it.
Zoom it up. Yeah,
All right,
I want
so-
to know the stories.
Well,
Yeah.
I want to start with you. Want to start with the Raven or the Eagle?
Let's do the Raven.
Yeah,
Nevermore.
Raven.
Yeah.
Nevermore.
Quote the
All right.
yeah, quote the Raven.
Nevermore. Yeah.
So-
I kind of like that one.
All right, so the Raven Totem Pole is located in front of the Whispering Canyon Cafe. Now, so both poles are meant to be read from the bottom
Up. Yes.
on up. Got it? All right.
Okay.
So we're going to begin at the bottom of the Raven Pole, and on the bottom of the Raven Pole is the image of the Whale Chief.
Whale Chief.
Whale Chief. That's right. And the Whale Chief has a beautiful daughter named Dolphin. Yes,
okay.
Dolphin. Yeah. Now, Mountain Lion asked to marry Dolphin, but was refused by the Whale Chief, and in his anger, scratched his throat with his claws, leaving scratches so deep that they've remained on many whales ever since.
Yeah,
So if you ever wonder where whales get scratches, it's from claws of angry mountain lions.
How was that relationship going to work? The mountain lion and the dolphin. How's that?
That's awesome.
How's that going to work?
I don't know necessarily, but stay
They look
tuned.
beyond the species that you like.
I
They don't
understand.
care. They look
I
beyond.
do the
Love
same
is
thing.
love, sir. Love is love.
This is like As the World Turns, but with animals.
Animals,
So there's like lots of drama, it looks like.
Come back here to the mountain.
Now-
Why you going back in the river? Get out of here.
Now, Frog is known as the great communicator.
Okay.
And has made peace between Whale Chief and Mountain Lion.
After the scratch,
After trying to gouge out his throat and trying to marry,
I'd
make
have been
off
like,
his daughter.
I'd been like, hell no, there's no peace.
Go ahead, Kermit.
Frog worked miracles
Frog.
and made peace between Whale Chief and Mountain Lion.
Okay.
So now, as part of the agreement, Whale Chief decided to hold an archery contest.
Oh, archery!
Because you know how well arrows shoot under the water.
Oh man, they're badass.
So Whale Chief decided to hold an archery contest, and the animal that came closest with its arrow to the mark would be allowed to wed his daughter. So now wolf, bear, eagle, beaver, otter, kingfisher, and many others tried, but none of their arrows came very close to the center of the mark. None of them were perfect.
And along came Merida.
Yes.
The whale.
Then came this fox dressed as a stork.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
All this would make more sense than what you're about to hear. Finally, the little wren asked to try.
Oh, what?
Little Wren.
The wren.
The little red.
The little
Those little
birdie,
itty bitty birds.
little-
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Let me have a shot.
And because he was so tiny, he had made his own bow and arrow from 2 spruce needles.
Oh.
His needle-like arrow flew straight to the center of the mark, winning the right to marry the Whale Chief's daughter. So a wren married a dolphin. Now, all the other animals roared and shrieked in fury and started to chase the small wren, who flew up to a knothole where he was safe and where most wrens have nested ever since. I swear to you, this is all somehow in the totem pole. I don't know how, but this is the story.
I'm looking at him. I was like,
Now-
how does this work?
Hootis, the bear chief,
Hootis.
Hootis, and his band, the Blowfish.
Yeah.
Hootis, the bear chief, and his wife had 2 small cubs who could transform themselves into humans if they so chose. So there's brave for you right there. Humans transforming into bears.
Very good. Yeah.
So they went with Wren and his new bride Dolphin as their protectors when they moved to a small island.
Wow.
Beautiful Dolphin would leap out of the water for joy whenever her husband sang and danced for her. However, she missed her friends, the salmon people, because we haven't gotten to the salmon people yet.
Oh, we need more salmon people in our
The
life.
salmon people.
I feel like we've kind of been cheating in this story because we've been like, what have the salmon people been up to this entire time? Finally, we're going to get to the salmon people.
They've been making patties.
Right. So now Rin had Frog, the great peacemaker, call the salmon people back from their journeys to the surrounding rivers and islands.
Lee, did you know this? They left journeys?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's because Lee was after him to put him in jail.
That's right. Yeah, Lee was going to put him in jail for stealing shoes.
Stealing shoes.
Yeah.
Now, the 7 people did return and were so happy to see Dolphin again that they leapt up the rivers and over the waterfalls.
Then they were eaten by a bear.
Hootis, to be specific, yes.
The salmon.
Hootis ate them, yes. No, many new salmon were born in these waters, but left to grow large and shiny, vowing that they would return to the river where they had been born. And so finally, you may be asking yourself, what the hell does this have to do with the raven at the top of the pole?
I've been asking that mentally.
Well, E, I'm glad to tell you that at the top of the pole is Raven,
Yes.
representing another version of the trickster bird flying into the Sky Chief's house, where, with his beak, he cleverly untied the double cords and knots that tightly bound a painted box. Opening the lid, Raven lifted out the moon and then broke off chips from the cedar box to form stars. He flung them all into the dark night sky where they have spread their light. So it just seems like this is like a separate story where Raven created the night sky.
Okay.
I'm sorry. And then next, Raven, he reached into the bird box and flung out a fiery ball of sun as a gift to all the animals, birds, and humans to brighten the world.
Oh, that's so Raven, man.
Lee was right there with that one.
That I don't like to make fun of any culture's tales or whatever, but that is the most random story I've ever heard. That was wild.
What's wrong with this? The final tale of the Raven is another variation of the story told on the large cedar totem pole outside the trading post in the Canada Pavilion at World Showcase. So apparently this Raven's tale is a very popular thing.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Here he goes. This particular story is central to the Northwest Indians' spiritual beliefs about the origins of the world. So now you kind of make fun of their beliefs, man.
No, that's why I say I hate to like make fun of any narrative. I just didn't see how it all went together. So but the world is a chaotic place. So I apologize for asking questions of the story of the Raven. Never more will I ask.
Well, I suppose never more do you need to hear the story of the eagle totem pole. Then?
Definitely never more.
We're good.
I have the Cliff Note version.
Why don't you give us the Cliff Notes
what's the Cliff Note version of the eagle?
What happened with the eagle?
Because if you ask me who this is, I don't know anymore.
Okay, I'm going to give you the 10-second version versus I didn't have the whole big Raven story either, so Danny definitely had the more detail.
I was curious.
That is courteous of Jim Corcus in his book.
Secrets.
More secret. No, Mo
Secret.
Mo Secret.
Who this Mo Secrets?
About this. So thank you, Jim Corcus.
And actually, thank you, Jim, for some of this information I did get here tonight is also from him as well. So.
Okay.
Corcus rocks.
Thanks, Corcus.
Yes. Okay, so the Eagle Pole story begins at the bottom. So there was a bear chief. Apparently there was a frog. And a frog tells the bear chief that he should hold a potluck feast for his young nephew, Bear Cub, and give him a magnificent gift. At the top of the pole is another tale of Raven and how the bird released the first humans who ever walked on the earth. So there's your 20-second Cliff Note version of the Eagle Pole story.
Raven is like God. He's creating people. He's creating the stars.
Right.
He's creating the sun. What did the eagle do?
Farewell concert 17 times.
Oh,
Apparently, he supposedly released the first humans to walk on the earth. It says here.
at the Hotel California. Yes,
And that was the magnificent gift that he gave.
The eagle created Americans.
Oh yeah, here I got it for you right here, Keith. Eagle likes to help, which is why atop his head sits 3 small tan skeels.
Okay.
These are the watchmen for all humans and animals. Wearing tall, shaded hats, tan skeels keep their eyes wide open day and night, peering endlessly out to sea. So there you go. They're protecting the village houses. That's there you go. And I'm sorry. And Eagle's at the top of the pole also because he heard a girl crying out to sea because she had gone away to marry one of the undersea people. Presumably related to the salmon people, I would think. But the under the sea people grew sad and lonely for a family in their own. This sounds like the mermaid story right here. Look at that.
Kind of a little bit,
Yeah, a little bit. All right, I think we said it all.
I think we exhausted.
We're all
Yes.
about the totem pole.
Yeah.
I think the Eagles did too much cocaine in the 80s.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
there was a lot of peyote that went into those totem poles.
Yeah.
Yeah, those gummy peyotes.
All right,
So overall, the Wilderness Lodge is tribute to Native Americans. There's a lot of Native American stuff in there with the totem poles, decorations, and just sets that Pacific Northwest National Park theming there. So.
Yeah. And the more famous totem pole, I think, is the one that everyone sees with Mickey and Goofy and Donald and
Right by the gift shop?
Humphrey the bear. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the one that a lot of people more recognize and all the kids take the picture in front of. That is probably the one everyone's like, well, why aren't they talking about that one? I don't know. Is there a story behind that one, Keith, outside of it's just...
I mean, it's more about Humphrey the bear. We can jump into him a little bit.
Well, Donald went to the whale chief and wanted to marry the cheetah girl.
And that's when Shark Boy and Lava Girl...
Yeah.
Chimed in there.
Right.
I really think Imagineers just wanted to throw some Disney into it, so they created this totem pole. Get your picture with it. You can buy the totem pole in the gift shop, kind of thing, or whatever.
Monetized.
Yes, exactly. So then part of this totem pole they have right in front of the gift shop is Humphrey the bear. So he's the unofficial / official mascot of the Wilderness Lodge. So the brown bear is an image that you see over and over at the Wilderness Lodge as well. So why not bring in one of the most famous bears, or not famous bears, depending on how you look at it?
Almost famous.
Infamous, even.
I mean, they could have easily brought in one of the country bears, but they basically brought in Humphrey the bear. And Humphrey the bear's background, he actually had his own set of Disney cartoons in the, I think it's the 1940s, maybe in the 50s. I don't know the exact time frame of the cartoons, but
yeah, it's like 50s. So I think they were kind of giving him his own cartoons going forward, but economics and whatnot struck, and they moved away from doing the shorts. But he was kind of going in that direction. He was becoming a star. I mean, you saw him in Donald cartoons, Goofy cartoons.
He was in the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse at one point.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the intro a little bit.
He even supposedly has a cameo in Roger Rabbit. At the very end. Yeah, you know, when all those obscure characters kind of show up at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that.
But you know what? Now you say that, Keith, that is one room that I may pay extra to stay at. If they decide to infuse the country bears and do like a country bear thing.
Oh, that'd be really cool, yeah.
I might want to stay in that room.
That would be kind of interesting.
Country, yeah, I think so. I think that'd be great.
Don't even like country music, but I like the country bears.
They could have the big mounted bear head to be your wake-up call. Like, hey, time to wake up.
Oh, Max and the...
No, you mean like, the
Biff?
buffalo, the elk, and the...
yeah, man.
And the deer?
Moose.
Yeah,
Moose.
Wake-up call in the morning.
That's one thing you don't actually see at the Wilderness Lodge. Is you don't see anything stuffed or any kind of heads. It would fit, I would think, but because of Disney being PC, can you imagine a big moose head hanging on the wall? It would totally work.
Howdy, folks.
Gaston's place.
Humphrey the bear is the unofficial mascot, a lovable, overweight brown bear who lives in fictional Brownstone National Park. I guess they just made up their own national park for the background of the character. There's bear references all around the resort. Bear tracks bedded in the walkways. You see bear patterns in like lampshade just walking around the resort. And some people say, and I kind of see this more over at Disney California Adventure, but some people say that based on the multi-peak roof structure, if you look at a certain location, specifically looking at Bay Lake, and you look back, kind of resembles like the face of a bear, the whole resort.
Or a sailboat.
Or a
sailboat.
We're not going to see the damn sailboat. I've never heard that before.
I never heard that either.
That's very interesting. I have to take a look at that.
Yeah, kind of look it up after the show. You know, and all the listeners Google, a view of the Wilderness Lodge from Bay Lake. Because if you think about it, they have the two long wings of it and then the tall building. So I guess it's his arms and then the head, maybe stretching a little bit. But
I'm about to say, it takes a lot of work to get to that point. I can barely take it.
Wow.
You heard the joke about the bear and the rabbit, right?
What's that?
The Eddie Murphy joke.
Bear and the rabbit are in the woods, and he goes, hey, rabbit, you have a problem with poop sticking to your fur? Oh, so he wipes his ass with the rabbit.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's good.
How about they make a rat out of that?
How about that experience?
How about that for a totem pole?
That was going to be the next Humphrey short, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, Keith, before we move on, because I heard that the way the design of the hotel itself, the resort, is meant to be, it's like the lobby is a tribute to Native Americans because they have the artifacts and the reproductions, like I was talking about, and the totem poles and whatnot. Then you got Whispering Canyon, which kind of showcases the Wild West kind of lifestyle with cowboys and Native Americans, that kind of thing. And then You have Territory Lounge, which is supposed to be a homage to explorers, and then Artist Point, which is supposed to be celebrating like the painters who helped capture the images of the Old West. Is that about what you heard?
Yeah, that's definitely similar. And once we go into the backstory a little bit, it all ties in together. It explains more the guys are about in, the woods, the dock, and why you have a river running through the lobby as well.
Oh,
everything's there, always at Disney for a reason. We can jump into restaurants if you want to, gentlemen, do that.
Yeah, since we're in the lobby, the restaurant's right there. You can't miss it. Both of them, at least.
I think personally, until they changed the Snow White, I think there was two of the best restaurants in all property in the Wilderness Lodge. I don't know what if you guys ever ate at the restaurants or what
I ate at both of them. Artist Point was my all-time favorite. I got to eat since they've redone it in the Snow White vein, and it wasn't bad, but it's not
the same.
It's not the same. Eli ate there too.
Yeah.
Eli ate at Artist Point.
Yeah, it was
That
good.
soup you keep telling me about. I
That's
remember.
smoky portobello mushroom soup.
Yeah, I wish I could have experienced that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just people didn't like the Pacific Northwest food. I mean, I had a great piece of salmon there when I used to love Artist Point as well. I think people, I think it was a combination of the food and combination of people didn't want to schlep all the way out to Wilderness Lodge just to eat at like one of the restaurants.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. If it was on the monorail line, I think Artist Point would have been a huge success.
Well, even in that, if they had a reliable piece of transportation where that they know they can just take there.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people go to
train.
Yeah, if they had the train, I think it would have worked. All the monorail line resorts do well because there's a monorail. And it's very easy to see. But if they had like hey, you just go to this train, you'll take it to the restaurant, I'm sure they would have gotten some business.
Now, having said that, we loved it so much, we always made it a point to go there. They had that cedar plank salmon, which I think they might even still serve. I don't remember because that's not what I had last time. But because my thing was always the scallops. They used to do these really huge, really awesome scallops.
That's awesome.
And that with the soup and everything. Oh, my God. Just mouth is watering right now thinking of it.
It was a cool atmosphere. I mean,
very cool atmosphere.
Yeah, it's killer.
Such a cool atmosphere. I'm sure Keith will get into the imagined backstory of this place. Yeah, it really is kind of it's amazing the amount of thought that they put into these kind of things.
And then they grew it, closed it down, watered it down with Disney characters, and it's now like a set menu and all that. I think and one of the characters comes out or something.
It's a Snow White themed, yeah. So you got a prefix menu.
Yeah, like the evil queen will stay there, and you go ahead and you go take a picture with her on your own accord. But Grumpy and Dopey come to the table. I don't remember Snow White.
I remember Snow White.
I know she was there, but I don't remember if she came to the table or if it was a
picture moment.
Picture moment. I can't remember that. I mean, the whole thing was like it was well done for what it was, but it's almost like walking into a fine dining establishment and having them like just redo
the characters show up.
Yeah,
right?
it's
it was unfortunate, right?
Yeah, it was a little unfortunate, but it wasn't.
Like you see little kids now. It was more like you would take your wife, Danny. Like more like the fine dining experience, and now they kind of watered it down. I think
they have, but I mean, I'm a huge Dopey fan, and having a place. I that was one thing I always wanted. And whenever we went to a Disney theme park, was a picture of my kid with Dopey. And how did I get it? Artist Point.
There you go.
Nice.
So, all right.
Well, now they can just take a picture with me.
Yes. Well, Dopey does not. He's the one dwarf that doesn't have a beard.
Oh, never mind.
Disney expert.
That joke up.
Not too bad.
You're just kind of dopey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you guys think of Wilderness Canyon Cafe?
Wilderness Canyon
Wow.
Cafe.
Okay, so I ate at that place one time. It reminded me of why I've never booked at 70s primetime.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Wait, 70s prime time?
Is that what it is? There's 60s primetime. What is it?
1950s prime
There you go.
time.
You'll
Whatever it
never
is.
book at 70s.
Never
primetime.
booked over there.
Are we talking about Whispering Canyon or there's a different restaurant?
Whispering
No,
Canyon.
Whispering Canyon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He said 70s prime time. That's why I laughed.
Wolfgang
Okay,
Amadeus primetime.
What?
No, I mean it's a fun place to eat, but the food is average at best. It's just it's fun to do one time.
Not about the food. It's about being fussed at.
It's the experience. Yeah.
What's
Yes.
that?
Exactly.
Yes, you get fussed. So, like, if you ask for ketchup while you're eating at the Whispering Canyon Cafe,
Okay.
everybody brings you 18,000 things of ketchup.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, just slam it
Right.
down.
Pre-COVID days. Now I don't know what they
Right.
do. Yeah.
Or like, if the waitress will ask you, you need something more to drink, you usually say, oh, just a little bit. and she'll bring you like a cup like this big.
Right.
Yeah, like
like
a
an
giant
itty
cup,
bitty
yeah.
Like
tiny
corny
cup.
stuff.
Yes.
Oh,
Or I want a
gotcha.
lot of water, and they'll bring out a big.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Oh,
And
just a
so
goofy prank kind of.
It's just fun. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're into that kind of fun, I've never been
Yeah.
into that. Like, it's like, okay, cool. I don't know how to react to this.
Yeah, like I'm just thirsty.
Right. It's like it's 11 o'clock. I'm tired. Just move on.
I tell you what, I'll give you a little tip. How about that? You think that'd be funny after the service is done? I'll do it too.
No, you have.
I
I've
will
seen
literally
you.
write on the tip thing. Here's a little tip.
Well, I mean, they had like little cowboy races with little wooden horses and all
Yeah,
that. It's
yeah.
kind of like those coconut races over the Polynesian, but you know,
Yeah.
it's definitely sticky. But
That's
I mean,
ex-
it's
That's a good
perfect
word. Yeah,
perfect
sticky.
word.
kind of goes in with that hoop-de-doo review. Hokey. I mean, I personally liked it. I haven't been there in 10, 15 years. It's on my list to do next time I go. But then a couple years ago, people like getting a little bit annoyed about it. And maybe guests were complaining about the noise because they like hoop and holler or whatever.
Yes,
and
a
I guess
lot.
that sound was carrying up to the rooms. Because think about it, you have that big lobby. And I guess it was going down the hallway. So now supposedly it's more like a subdued Whispering Canyon. But after COVID, I don't know the catch up, and we'll see.
You
know.
see, again, that's not my cup of tea, but I can understand that it could be some people. So I would have never complained. I'd just be like, well, that's not me. I went there one time, and I'm like, all right, I don't need dinner to be this excitable. You know.
All right. So the next restaurant we need to talk about is Geyser Point Bar and Grill. One of the great things about the Wilderness Lodge is this is kind of new. It was part of the, I won't get into the DVCs in a little bit, but part of the Copper Creek villas and cabins. It's an outdoor bar and grill where you can get food, and the food's a little bit more like upscale where you can get burgers, but like kind of Disney spin on like fancy burgers and that kind of thing. Okay. But the best part about this place is it has a view of the lake.
Oh, nice.
All right.
But not a view of the beach.
Son of a beach.
It's kind of what I love personally about the Wilderness Lodge is you can sit there. It's on the lake, not on the beach. So it's just great in that sense. It's like the Polynesian. There's not many resorts which are on a lake as part of their themings. It's just kind of a neat little place you can go and watch the sunset.
I don't think I've ever been.
Yeah, well, it's fairly new in the last 5 to 8 years whenever Copper Creek opened up. It's kind of if you're visiting the resort, you can just grab a beer, maybe grab a burger, get a view of the lake, cool place to just kind of hang out. So
if you're not staying at Copper Creek or Boulder Ridge, is it conveniently located, or is it more like better if you're staying in that area?
It's better if you're staying in that area. I like to visit the Wilderness Lodge just to visit it, just walk around the resort. But I also like to use it for transportation. So you know how you do the Mickey's Not So Scary Party?
Yeah.
And based from like 4:30, or they let you a couple hours earlier and then closes at midnight or whatever.
Yeah.
I think when it's midnight, after the party's over, it's going to be such a pain to take like the bus and the monorail back to the transportation center. Kids tired and all that. You know what I mean?
You got to go stay at the Best Western because you're staying offsite.
Yeah, because I like to stay off site, as we know. So versus spending $700 a night on site. So what I did is I actually did valet. So I paid, the $20-$30 to valet at the resort, and then I could just, stroll through the resort and then walk to the back of the resort. You have that nice lake view, and then just take a leisurely, like Lee said earlier, 10-minute boat ride to the Magic Kingdom. And then at the end of the night, you just kind of reverse it, go in the lobby, walk out the door. But the interesting thing is, which I kind of didn't factor in, is when you do valet parking at midnight, it resets the cost. So you pay $20 or $30 for the day. Hit midnight, 12:01, you're paying that $20 or $30 again.
It's a new day. It's day 2. Yep.
So, and I'm sure there's a reason behind that for people like me and the other thing, which is probably a bigger factor, is, so I'm coming back from the Not So Scary party. Well, when I first went out to the party, apparently the doors lock after, I think it's 11. So if you don't have a magic band and you're not staying at the resort, you're locked out.
Wow.
So luckily, coming back on the ferry boat, I was able to just go in with a whole bunch of people and just grab the door and, went in the resort. So I don't know what we would have done. I'm sure we would have.
You're walking through the woods.
Actually, what we could have done is just a little bit of a...
Jump out the boat.
Is, you can actually walk from the Wilderness Lodge to Fort Wilderness. There's a trail.
Yes, you can bike there. Yeah, I biked that.
Never did it, and I don't think most people actually did, but I would imagine it would be nice, relaxing bike ride or walk or whatever.
It's
I
nice.
think that's where when they had the Segway tour, that's where they went too.
Is that when they went?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's nice.
I think so.
Yeah, it's really
You
nice.
know what they should do? They should take their old river country and turn it into Camp Crystal Lake. and it becomes like a survivalist, like theme park resort stay, kind of like their
like an escape room.
right, yeah, exactly, like their new Star Wars hotel. You stay there, but you don't get to choose. Like the minute you get killed, the minute you allow yourself to get killed, yeah, you and all your bags got to leave property.
Yeah.
But
It's kind of like a reality show.
Exactly. Yes, you just have to survive Jason in the wilderness.
You, sir, have been eliminated.
Yes, I think that'd be cool.
You know, it's funny, Danny, because I was just what I was just about to say, and you took my thunder a little bit. Is I was just about to say, so that walkway from Wilderness Lodge to Fort Wilderness, I'm sure it's been at night. I'm sure there's no light, so you really wouldn't want to do it. And then the first thing I thought of was Friday the 13th, and then you just said that. So,
yeah, you walk along.
pretty minds think alike. So yeah, kind of funny.
I don't know. I'd be more scared of the alligators than Jason, but
that's
me.
true. That's true.
Or Buffalo Bill.
So let's now jump into the backstory. Not only Artist Point, Wilderness Lodge, basically the whole resort. And it has a very interesting backstory. I think almost as interesting as Port Orleans Riverside.
Yeah, about a year ago.
So, and I kind of wish I have a copy of it. I'm sure I could buy it on eBay. This is when they used to give out these newspapers, you know, when you checked in and having all your Disney information. And part of that newspaper they gave out had that backstory.
oh, I love that thing. Yes, that's Grand Floridian, different resorts along the time where you got to Port Orleans, all that. Yeah, you got the backstory of the resort through that. It was the Star Creek. I'm sorry, Silver Creek Star, something like that. That was the name of the newspaper, wasn't it?
Yeah. So you're actually right, Danny. It was called the Silver Creek Star.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's the same newspaper for all the resorts?
No.
No.
Okay, this was specific to Wilderness Lodge, and so like Grand Floridian would have a different newspaper, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody had their own specific newspaper.
Got it.
And I think each one was themed to the time frame, but I think like they had different names because supposedly these resorts were at different periods in time.
Mm-hmm.
But this was the Silver Creek Star, and this was basically the hotel's guest guide. And there'd be articles talking about guest services and when the hours of the resort, you know, restaurants are and whatever.
Yeah.
So, but part of it is they
needed filler.
Yes. And I don't know, Danny, if you have the backstory in front of you.
All right, so basically what it works out to is that the whole history of the Wilderness Lodge exists around the exploits of this colonel named Ezekiel Moreland in the early 1800s.
That's a great name.
Moreland. You see, that's a clever Disney.
There you go.
Moreland. So he's out there looking for adventure. He fought in the War of 1812 is the way I remember it.
Yep.
And then he set out to survey the Great Northwest in 1822.
Okay.
Now, he led an expedition. There was like 50 men that he enlisted, and they were all going out, but they encountered a stampede of more than 10,000 buffalo that nearly destroyed all of their possessions just 80 miles from their starting point. So the men all were like, screw this. They just gave up, threw up their hands like, we're done. And Moreland's like, cowards! You suck! Yeah. So he decides, you know what, screw this, guys. I'm going to go it alone.
Yeah. Moreland. Get it, Moreland.
So no one hears from him for about 2 years. All of a sudden he shows up and he's got this great bounty of beaver pelts and furs and all this stuff to help make him wealthy. He comes back, he's got all this cool stuff. And man, he's just selling it left and right. He becomes wealthy off of it. And now he invites his daughter. Her name was Genevieve, which he called Ginny.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like peas and carrots.
Yeah, they went together like pizza and carrots. That's exactly right, Lee. Because she was from the block.
Don't be fooled by the rock she's got.
So he invites his daughter, Jenny, to come experience this wonderful, beautiful place that he discovered on his journey. Moreland is the one who kind of gives the name of the valley Silver Creek Springs. And the reason for that is because the mineral deposits coming from the hot springs make the water shimmer like silver. So that's how you get the name Silver Creek Springs. Ginny now has this young Australian artist named Frederic Alonso Gustave, who is her traveling companion.
I don't trust this guy already.
Gustav.
I don't even know where this is going, but that name sounds shady.
So they all rendezvous, Moreland, Ginny, and Frederick, and they set off towards Silver Creek Springs with a small group of men, and they build a lodge near this freshwater spring. The Wilderness Lodge now welcomes artists, scientists, and nature lovers of all types, and as the number of visitors grow, they expand the lodge. They add more rooms so that way they can accommodate everyone. And this kind of gets us into, as with every one of these great backstories, it kind of gets us into where all the individual buildings on property come from. So take Artist Point, for example, a restaurant we all know very well. So according to legend, when they arrived in Silver Creek Springs, Gustav immediately unpacks his gear and sets up his easel on a rocky outcropping that offered the best view that you could possibly have of the springs. And as soon as Gustav begins to paint, boom, a geyser erupts, and it sends Gustav, his easel, and all of his art supplies tumbling over the ledge.
No.
Oh.
Yes.
That sucks.
Now, you're not going to like to hear this, Eli, but Gustav does survive the fall.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But despite the dangers, the ledge becomes his favorite place to paint because it offered such a perfect view of the landscape.
Artists are just crazy people.
Yes. And so as the years passed, other artists such as Thomas Moran and Albert Bierstadt, they would flock to the area and they just wanted to paint. And where would you get that best view? But right on that rocky outcrop. So they would all set up shop there, and they figured it out enough to know that when because before the geyser would erupt, there would be a trembling, and they knew stop there so that way we don't get knocked off down the rocks, down the ledge into oblivion. What ends up happening is that years later, when the lodge finally gets finished, a formal dining room was built on the exact location that these artists would come to paint paintings, and it was aptly named Artist Point.
Artist Point.
And of course, the artwork that adorns the walls were provided by the artists who would visit the area and paint there. Then there was another building, the Teton Boat and Bike Rental Building. And supposedly this was the original cabin that Colonel Ezekiel Moreland built shortly after arriving in the valley for the very first time when he was staying there alone before there was any Jenny from the block and Gustav and all them.
It's a true frontier experience.
Yes. Now, the geyser. So we just kind of touched on the geyser a minute ago. The colonel learned the legend of Fire Rock Geyser from a Native American elder known as Running Elk.
Running Elk.
Running Elk.
Running Elk.
Yes.
Of the elk.
So apparently during one especially bad winter, an Indian hunting party was trapped in the valley by excessive snow. So they built a fire, but they just kind of kept it burning nonstop. They were just into the whole idea. Look, it's cold. We just want to be comfortable and warm all the time.
Yeah.
So after about 5 days, the rocks beneath them began to crack and tremble. By the next day, the trembling became even greater. And so as they placed yet another piece of wood in the fire, boom, the earth opens up and a great big pillar of hot steaming water erupts upwards, launching their teepees in the air. They run off frightened. And they flee the valley with warnings to avoid the location because they had angered the earth with their excessive, wasteful use of continuous fire. And that's what brought about what the geyser there, that brought about the name Fire Rock Geyser.
That's right.
Fire Rock Geyser.
Geyser.
Paper, rock, scissors.
Yes. And lastly, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's a backstory behind Whispering Canyon, and maybe Keith has it. I wasn't able to find it, but then there was the pool.
The pool.
They even have they make a backstory for everything.
Yeah.
Right. The pool sitting around, again, this is a greatly abbreviated story. You can find the whole story online. But there was a guy by the name of Georgie McGregor.
Georgie McGregor.
Georgie. Got his arm bitten off by a clown in the sewer. And, never was the same. No, Georgie was an unlucky prospector. I'm sorry. Georgie was an unlucky prospector who arrived in the valley in 1852. And when he arrived at the lodge, he pretended to be a cook because he didn't want him to know that he was a prospector and he was looking to take from the land all its riches and its goods.
Stinky Pete.
Right.
Yeah.
And the frontier, though, they didn't have a whole lot of chefs on the frontier, obviously, at the time. I mean, so his skills as a chef, when they hear this, they're like, oh, you're hired. We want you to come here. Here's a job. We'll get you a room. And he's like, yeah, I'll take the job, but I don't need a room so much. I'm just going to set up camp down there near near the stream, he would kind of pretend to be doing his thing as a cook. Meanwhile, he's panning for silver and gold the entire time. Well, he wasn't making out as well as he thought he should, so Georgie got a little greedy one day and decided to use dynamite to help uncover his fortune.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Good idea.
So,
Go get him, Georgie.
history is not recorded whether this was an accident or whether Georgie meant to do this, but all of a sudden a tremendous explosion rings out throughout the valley, and it leaves this large cavernous hole deep in the earth and sends Georgie about 20 feet up a large pine tree.
This is the best backstory ever.
Yes.
This is my favorite backstory of all backstories right
And
here.
So this was the last time Georgie ever looked for gold or silver ever again, and the cratered pool that he blew into the ground now serves as one of the most favorite recreational activities of anybody staying at the lodge, which is swimming in the nice pool there. And it is a beautiful pool. I remember many and many, many a night. Do you remember, Eli, when you had your problems with my neighbor, and you called me up and said, hey, I just threw this dude out your house?
Yes.
I was sitting at the pool, reading a book, just relaxing by that pool at Wilderness Lodge. So,
Oh, wow.
yes.
Thanks to Georgie McGregor.
Thanks
Yeah.
to Georgie.
Great
Back
story.
in 1852. How about
Georgie
that?
McGregor.
Yeah, they got a picture of him right here. How about that?
And I bet you he would drink proper 12 if we asked.
McGregor.
Oh, I mean,
Yes.
I would too be like, man, how'd you survive that explosion? He was like, that's what I do.
So there you go. That's all the backstories I could locate.
That's crazy. That
you got
was
something
crazy.
else, Keith?
I just wanted to cover one thing, and then I have two other backstories.
It's going to beat that one?
Nah, it's not going to be that. It's not as interesting, but
Dang.
just, if you think about the Wilderness Lodge, it's one of the few resorts that I can think of on Disney property where you kind of have that river that's running through it.
That's a great movie. Brad Pitt is an incredible actor.
The hell you talking about?
A river runs through it.
Oh, Jesus.
Gotcha. I had to think for a second there.
No, you're not alone on that one, Keith.
yeah.
That was...
You really don't have to, actually.
We just reached for the sky on that
Don't waste
one.
your time with
Yeah,
that.
I slept through it.
Yeah. I never
Gotcha.
watched it because I don't want to go through it.
Danny mentioned in the backstory the Silver Creek Springs. So it actually starts towards the back of the lobby. There's like a little area where it opens up and the stream goes under a bridge down the waterfall,
Yes.
past the pool area, and then goes into Bay Lake where that fire rock geyser is that Danny talked about in his backstory. So they built that geyser and that river not only for theming, but to fit their backstory as well.
It's like the stream kind of made its way through the lobby, then ignited the geyser on the way out, and then boom, right in the Bay Lake.
It is kind of nice. I dig that because you can see it leaving the building.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Wilderness Lodge is only I think it's the only resort where they actually not added not one, but two different DVCs. So they added Boulder Ridge villas, which were formerly called the villas at Wilderness Lodge. And then they added a little bit later on Copper Creek. So let me just quickly run through the backstories on the two DVCs here.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
It's kind of interesting because these were built, I don't know the exact time frame, but 94, I believe, was the opening of the Wilderness Lodge. And I think somewhere in 98, 99, somewhere in that time frame was Boulder Ridge. And then somewhere in the 2000 was Copper Creek. Well, first of all, they had to build these, and they still had it theme it in with the Wilderness Lodge, and they had to make it look like, hey, this been there since the beginning of Wilderness Lodge opened up. So it's just interesting, and they did a good job of blending it in. Boulder Ridge Villas. So the backstory is, so over time, as Silver Creek Springs expanded, over at Port Orleans and Dixie Landings, that kind of backstory. So the arrival of the Transcontinental Railroad in the Pacific Northwest spurred the development of rustic residential communities which housed rail house workers. And this is the story of basically how the Boulder Ridge Villas came to be. So they basically said that the land adjacent to the Wilderness Lodge would basically later be a team of railroad workers around the 1860s time frame, and that this was an ideal location where they set up camp to help build the Intercontinental Railroad. And here they built themselves a place to stay, and then they moved on once their job was complete, but they left this residential community, and hence this was the Boulder Ridge Villas. So
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, quite
Very
an
good.
industrious group.
that's a little bit of the backstory there. And have any of you ever wandered over to these Boulder Ridge Villas?
Yes.
I have not.
So you know where I'm going next, Danny, with the training room and all
I'm
that?
pretty sure. Yeah, Carolwood Pacific, is that it?
Yeah, so they kind of have this hidden, I think personally it's a hidden gem,
It definitely qualifies as a hidden gem. Definitely.
I mean, I think I wouldn't say that it's worth a special trip there.
It is.
But if you happen to be at the resort or at the resort visiting, I would definitely stroll on over.
Well, if you're a Disney historian, if you're a fan of Disney history, and you want to see something that Walt personally owned at one point in time and used, the Carolwood Pacific is legend. If you're a Disney historian of any sort, I mean, you know that's where this whole thing started from, was him running his model train in his backyard.
Let's just fill in the listeners just a little bit. So it's the Carolwood Pacific Room. So go ahead, Danny. But basically, it's a room full of train history.
Yes. It actually has at least, I want to say it's 2 cars, his actual train that he used.
Oh, that's awesome.
In his original property, right. And it's on loan from like Disney, Diane Milton, and she's gone now. But I mean, that's where they got it from, and it's on display there. So yes, no, it was a thrill to see it.
Yeah, it's a lot of like train history. So if you're into the trains, it's full of memorabilia, train history, framed photos with Walt, and then it brings in Roger Brogy, who's got involved in the trains, Carolwood Historical Society. He was the founder of that. So it's just a lot of that history. I mean, it's probably worth at least half an hour just exploring the room. And the best part is no one knows about it, so there's nobody there.
Well, yeah, if you want to just see something that Walt personally interacted with, something that he himself and his friends and family rode. I think Roger Brogy was the one. Was he the one who built the cars? I can't remember. It's been a little while since I've read it up on that. But I mean, I've never been the most necessarily interested in train history, but I do have a fascination with Walt, and I know that that's just something that.
Yeah, it was him. It was him.
It was him.
Yeah, back in 1949.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
He helped where you worked with Walt to create those trains. So yeah,
but I will say this: like, I read this on a website like a while back, and I've often wondered about this. I think it's all nonsense. Sometimes it's fun to speculate and talk about these kind of things. It's been rumored that there's a certain rocking chair in the Carolwood Pacific Room, which late at night will begin rocking on its own, and people say that this is just Walt visiting all the steam train related memories here within the room. And
I love that story. I love that.
So you've heard this before?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I think it goes into that whole nostalgia of Walt. So I love that. You know what I mean? So I could totally see it. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I think that would be great. If that started rocking, I was like, well, and I would want to ask him so many questions.
Oh, well, I don't know that anyone's actually
if he appears, but that's, yeah.
But it does, when the chair starts to rock, and don't bother knocking.
You won't have no problem with me.
and since it's like in its own little area, it's really quiet in there. You know what I mean? 'Cause it's not. You have to seek it out. So.
Yes, there's like board games and stuff like that in there where you can all just hang.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's really it's a nice little room. We stayed in there for only a few moments, but I got to see it, and it was very cool.
Maybe I'll stay there for our next podcast trip.
It's a really great hotel. You should.
Actually, that would be a really good location, actually.
Yes.
If it's to do a podcast or something, yeah.
If it's not haunted, I got you.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't mind haunted. If it's
you don't mind haunted?
If it's Walt,
if it's Walt, but what if it's not?
I was in Walt's apartment, and I sat there and just stared at that lamp, like waiting for the lamp to like flick off and on its own and stuff like that, because I heard those stories.
Yes, indeed.
You know, I remember being in there and just being like, "This is so cool. Is Walt really here?" You know, that kind of thing.
That would be awesome if it's Walt, but if it's not Walt, then you know.
Oh yeah, like what? Yeah,
up.
It's Humphrey the Bear's ghost.
It's the guy from Poltergeist.
Oh, the old man.
Yeah, the old man.
That's in his holy temple. Oh yeah. Oh no, that's what I'm saying. Like if it's Walt, cool. I talk to him, give him a cigarette, but
y'all gonna die in there. All right. Well, okay, cool.
The other backstory is about Copper Creek. So the backstory on this one is that it has to do with mining and the railroad history. It's kind of similar to Boulder Ridge. So where the tales of the original structures at Wilderness Lodge drew their story from the 1800s, the new Cropper.
Crop. Who's gonna crop? You gonna crop?
What? Crapper.
Copper Creek villas and cabins were tied to a later period when the railroad, mining, and quarry managers and foremen brought their families out west and built homes along the lakes with some of the materials and objects found in the area. The story concept is that the units employ materials like rustic tracks and reclaimed wood, as well as giant cog from railroad that form a wall hanging and occasional hidden Mickeys. So it's more like they did mining after the railroads were built.
So it was railroads with a little bit of mining. That was my understanding as well. I haven't been able to tour Copper Creek yet, though.
Yeah, I haven't toured it either. Yeah, so that's the backstories of the Wilderness Lodge. One big feature which we forgot to talk about, going back to the lobby, is the fireplace.
Yeah, the fireplace. I love that fireplace.
Yeah, I don't know how I forgot to talk about it earlier in our conversation.
It's a structure as old as the hills.
I wanted to ask about that, but I never got a chance to get to it.
Yeah, so it goes... I mean, it's kind of funny to have a fireplace in Florida, but it goes in with that wilderness theme, you know. You build a campfire, fireplace, it all makes sense. So the fireplace is actually 82 feet tall, and it's actually, they did a lot of research, but apparently it's a replica of the south rim of the Grand Canyon rock structure. Through different rock materials through the fireplace, it tells the history of the Grand Canyon.
So like different layers?
Yeah, different layers of rock.
Okay, cool.
Different colors, different fossils within those. It really is something special when you just sit out there at night. I always do that. Like, wife and kid go to bed. Like, I'm like, see ya. And I'll go downstairs and I'll just, take in the pool, take in the lobby, take in whatever it is, and just sitting out in front of that fireplace and just noticing the striations as it goes up. I mean,
amazing.
It's really amazing, yes.
It's interesting because it actually used to be, when they first started, actually was a woodworking fireplace, and then a little bit of smoke and soot, and they realized we need to make it a gas fireplace.
Yeah.
Well, that works, yeah. In winter, it works nicely.
Truthfully, every home in Texas has a freaking fireplace. We don't use them, but like 2 times a year. So it's not unusual for it to be in Florida like that. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know why we have fireplaces, but we do.
It's for Santa.
Sorry, kids.
Yeah, Santa's got to get down
exactly
there.
Spoiler. You should know with that beard.
Yeah. So it's definitely one of the icons, I think, in the resort. And definitely, there's actually little smaller fireplaces kind of in the villas, but not as prevalent, as an 82-foot fireplace.
Yeah.
No, I love it because I'm looking at the Silver Creek Star newspaper, and their leading sentence when they describe this thing goes like this. It says, it took 2 billion years to build the fireplace at Wilderness Lodge. At least that's how long it took the Earth to create the layers of rock that are represented in our 82-foot replica of the Grand Canyon strata. That's pretty awesome.
Nice.
It's very awesome.
That's a lot of work to get that detail in there. But I mean, that's nothing different than Dizzy would do. It's pretty killer.
Yeah, they actually hired a panthenologist to study the walls of the Grand Canyon, and then take all that and build that replica with the different layers, color rocks and fossils and all that. So yeah.
Yeah, there's a paleontologist named Robert Reed. He studied the walls of the actual Grand Canyon, and then they duplicated it.
Yeah, and I'm looking here further in the paper. It says you'll find abundant numbers of coral, brachiopod, gastropod, and crinoid fossils. And they give you the levels at which you can find all this stuff. I wish they'd still print this and give it to the guests.
No, I'm with
it's such a detail that, I mean, they say 7th floor embedded there in the type of limestone that they have and the formations. You can see clam fossils and all kind of crazy stuff.
The only reason I can think of that they don't do it is because they know that they change things on a regular basis based upon what's working, what doesn't working, that they just be constantly redoing this history.
I guess they're not changing the fireplace right off the bat like that.
No. Yeah, no, I give you that.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they've already changed Artist Point.
I was just going to say, it's all digital now. You could put it in your My Disney experience.
True.
All that kind of stuff. And changing that online, it's not like they have to go through and retype like a whole thing that's going to be printed out and change the printing press and all this other stuff. It's click, click, click. Okay, well, now it's the Brother Bear fireplace or whatever. But it can all be done through your My Disney experience. It's all digital now.
How many people do you think know all these backstories? This is what's kind of sad. All these stories get lost in time. That's why... Yeah. When you guys told me, like, hey, let's go do Wilderness Lodge, I'm like, let's do it because all these great backstories are lost to time, and at least we can tell the listeners about it.
Well, same thing with the Caribbean Beach. We did a whole episode of the Caribbean Beach, and then we knew that there was a backstory that was printed in a newspaper, but no one could figure out
find it. Yeah, we couldn't find it, yeah.
Couldn't locate. It's crazy. But, I mean, also, I think the other thing of it is that most people who go there just don't care about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It'd be nice for it to be there for people who do care.
I would agree.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, if you don't care about this, just don't click the little link, and don't read about it.
Well, you know, like, look, I remember, like, when there was a point where they had Disney, what was the name of that clothing line, 80 something?
So, like, the men's line, Danny?
Yeah, it was like something
where they had all, like,
Maine.
the icon, like, the Nautilus. And
Right.
All that. Yeah.
All this really great Disney history and stuff like that represented in shirts and ties and whatnot
Yep.
that you could, and then that's gone already. I mean,
Yeah, that didn't last very long, yeah.
I guess it's just such a small grouping of
Fan
people
base
who
or
really,
something.
yeah.
Remember the Disney teddy bear that you could buy? Not
Duffy?
Teddy bear. Sorry, no. Sorry, the Mickey Mouse you could buy.
Pal Mickey?
Oh, yeah.
Pal Mickey, and you'd walk around
Yeah.
the parks with him, and he would tell you stuff.
Yeah.
Same thing. You just put it on your phone now instead of whatever.
They could have
gotta-
totally do that and have, like, a pop-up or something and be like,
Yeah, they
hey,
gotta
this
figure out a way
information
to make
about the...
money.
Yeah.
They got to figure out a way to make money on it. Then they'll do it.
I mean, my God, I'm looking at the Silver Creek Star, and the detail is just absolutely amazing.
Isn't it, though?
You know, one of the things at the top by the name of the paper, they have celebrating 200 years of history for Silver Creek. And right below it, 2 cents. I mean, absolutely amazing. I downloaded it for my own edification. Just so
There
I
you
have
go.
it.
Mhm. Well, I mean, and also those newspaper things, that was a Michael Eisner thing, wasn't it?
Yes and no, because it depends on the time frame of when the resort was open up.
I was going to say, we didn't get any newspaper backstories on the Contemporary or the Polynesian.
I think it was an Eisner, because I feel like a lot of these hotels with these crazy backstories did open up during the Eisner era. So I think I'm with you, Danny, on that.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, it seems like when we started getting the Caribbean Beach and all those hotels that really, the Wilderness Lodge and whatnot, that actually used the newspapers to tell the story, it all seemed to be during the Eisner era.
You know, it all makes sense. 92, somewhere in that time frame, was the Port Wilderness. Not Port Wilderness. Here I am making up resorts again. Port Orleans.
That'd be awesome.
You know, Wilderness Law. Yeah, they all had these really interesting backstories. Imagineering was kept busy back then.
Yes.
They actually imagine things. Go figure. They got creative. Imagine that.
What's the backstory now of the Riviera?
A bunch of rich people.
I was going to say, there's no backstory to Riviera that I'm aware of. I could look into it to see, but
No,
I
because a
haven't
bunch
heard.
of business executives built it. Well, thanks, man. That was pretty awesome. We definitely appreciate that tour.
Always a pleasure to have you on, sir, man.
Oh, thank you. So always a pleasure doing the research and, talking with you guys about it, having fans who love these backstory histories as much as I do. So
I'm just a little disappointed that you and Lee did not fight at all. But it seems
But
like...
there was a truce from a couple of shows back, if I
it
remember
seems
right.
like y'all have moved forward in this new age of COVID and, like all this bad things that are happening in the world today, y'all have embraced. And you're like, let's move forward together. We have more in common.
I mean, it's like yin and yang. It's like Keith,
Yeah.
no facial hair. Lee, all of the facial hair.
All the hair.
You got
It's totally
stubble.
in a-
well, I
Yeah.
got facial hair a little bit. So I
Oh,
don't
I
see
thought
it.
you said you clean shaved it for us. Okay, so in the video. All right.
No, I kind of grew the beard just for the Wilderness Lodge episode.
Well, I mean, I could never tell from this video looking
Yeah,
here.
no, that's
Lee
fine,
definitely
but-
has a waterfall from his chin. And it's beautiful.
And never chase waterfalls, Keith.
Yeah, don't go chasing waterfalls.
Stick to the rivers and lakes that you're
Yes.
used to.
What a vision.
Gotcha.
Keith, thank you so much, man. We definitely appreciate it. Look, guys, there's going to be a lot of stuff happening at the end of this year, man, as we approach our 400th and Walt Disney World's 50th. We're splitting the podcast. Half of us going to Disneyland and half of us going to Walt Disney World. It's going to be freaking awesome. A lot of stuff. Make
That's
sure
the plan. We don't know for sure, though.
Hopefully, we're keeping our fingers crossed. We'll be able to split coast and have Magic Our Way represented on both sides. So stay subscribed, man. A lot of
West
good things are going to
Side!
happen. Yes, West Side, East Side. We're going to have all that battle. So thank you so much, guys.
We're going to battle rap, too.
Yeah.
we're gonna talk
Yeah.
about, we're going to talk about how we're going to kill you East Coast suckers.
My name
Suckers
is
don't.
Peaches, and I'm the best. All the bills love to suck my breath.
Time on the bike. Get it right, sight.
Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed that discussion. If you want to learn more about us, the Magic Our Way podcast, magicourway.com is the way to go. There you find our social media links, past episodes, and more. Also, if you want to express your opinion, you can get in touch with us through the following ways. Shoot us an email at show@magicourway.com. Call or send us a text message. Yes, I did say text. At 1-815-MO-WEEKEND. That's 1-815...
Mo Weekend.
That is 669-4226. Also, we have a couple of guys who do things outside of the podcast. First of all, we got Eli that does things with comics.
Hey, Rob Liefeld here. Deadpool, Cable, X-Force, Domino, Marvel Comics, Image Comics, all of it. You guys, What is up? Eli Ivory. What a great name. Eli Ivory, comic guru. I'm here to talk about you. I am here to say, check out ivorycomics.com. That's right, you. Check out ivorycomics.com. ivorycomics.com. If you're not doing that, you're missing out. You're missing out. The Savages comic cannot be beat, cannot be surpassed. You need to check it out, experience it for yourself, and you know the story. It's all about the glory. Congrats to you and all the magic that you're making with your Ivory Comics. Eli Ivory, comic book guru. Check out ivorycomics.com, comic book guru. Eli Ivory, the whole package. Deadpool said to. Do it. ivorycomics.com right now. Liefeld out.
Man, I never get tired of that. So just like Rob said, you can always visit the good stuff I have over there at the ivorycomics.com website. Of course, there's a link to this podcast so you never miss an episode, you never miss a joke, you never miss an insight, you never miss learning, because that's what we do. You can also find me on Facebook.com, Eli H. Ivory. That's why I'm there. As long as you're a real person, hi, nice to meet you. But if you're a bot, gotta beat you. Also, Project Geisha has a Facebook page with facebook.com/Project Geisha. Also, on Instagram, I'm right there posting up likes and hearts and shares. EIV504, you can find me there. And of course, on Twitter, I can be found at Hancock10166. So if you appreciate the madness, then you're just bringing me the gladness. Thank you very much.
And guys, look, if you want to book a vacation to any of the Disney resorts, including Universal, anything around the country or the world, you can do so through Lee. Lee, tell them how to do this.
Just give me a call at 832-431-1621, 832-431-1621. Email me at lee@magicourway.com. Facebook, you can find me at facebook.com/Lastovica Travel. That's LASTOVICA Travel. Instagram, you got a friend in Lee Travel. And TikTok, you got a friend in Lee. Do any of that. We'll get you hooked up and booked up with no
Hasselvika!
And guys, look, there's so many ways to support the show as a whole. You can find them all on our website, magicourway.com. Any way in which you can support the show is deeply appreciated. We also want to take a second and thank you for being a loyal listener. And we always love hearing from our listeners. All opinions are always welcome in the Magic Our Way podcast, so make sure you get in touch with us today. Summer weekends, we say Kwaharini. My name is Kevin.
And I'm Danny.
Magic out.
I have every intention of eating those bananas for breakfast, but I still somehow end up with tacos.
Mickey bars.